Hey there. Uh, because I'm very aware of how the inverted language reversal negative 13 Metatronic signal works, I'm not going to cover that. But I'm going to share with you what just happened, which is what we call an indicator of how this works, right, on a AI battlefield environment. But I had posted a link to the California Insider channel where the host of that channel was interviewing a district attorney from El Dorado County. And I know where El Dorado County is. The El Dorado National Forest is a beautiful forest, particularly when you get up into where the Rubicon Trail is. It takes you up over and overlooks Lake Tahoe. Some spectacular granite boulders. That's why they love to take their vehicles up there. But the point is that I posted up there a comment, sort of like, this is my introduction to the video, and then talked about antenna wars, right? And you can tie this directly to the movie Avatar, cybernetic wars, cyber wars, artificial deadlight intelligence, how you couple that to the Voyager materials, a 55 harmonic, right? The death spiral, which is a Death Star, what an energy molester is, trying to keep its system running, which is its data. All the visual, mathematical, and geometrical data that is running through a deadlight system, which is your beast technology system, which produces all the polarity drama, right? And you acknowledge that consciousness, which is energy that is running software, which is an antenna at the cellular memory recording level. And you see through some of these videos how cities become what? Dead zones, which are dead water zones, which are dead spirit zones of influence. Under the influence of dead water, experiencing dead water zones in cities. And when I posted that into the video on Karen and Luke McDonald's channel, it was wiped. The AI does not want you to experience the map of that information by virtue of what I communicated, how that works, by what I become aware of, what I'm aware of now, by virtue of the channels I am experiencing by mapping the math and the geometry as to the difference in spirals, which represented to the speed ratio harmonic related to the core blast furnace, right, of clearing memories through servers, which are vortices, right, in which we're getting rid of what? The programming. The elementals, which is the elemental command, right? So this is very simple because what we're talking about here is artificial deadlight intelligence that is an energy molester. It's a molester. So this is why all of the stuff about going after children, that's the AI. Using its deadlight assets, going after children that have souls and the essence of their spirit. So those that are living energy with a living spirit, with an essence and a soul, is a target. That's what an energy deadlight magnet does. In order to keep its magnet running, which is all the visual mathematical data that is represented by the electronic thought burn patterns, there is a big difference in spirals when we feel magnetically at the closing of a magnetic circuit, experiencing perfect balance. The breath of 3 lotus petals. The breath of pink diamonds. And so you can see how this works. Doesn't want the information to be experienced, right? So you see how this works. So what happens is, and I shared this with somebody before, how far back you can actually go to where, imagine that you're sitting down with Sitting Bull in a council and letting Sitting Bull know what's going to happen in 2016. Okay. Like a reset, resetting the clock. sitting in a council, rainbow councils, emerald councils, right? Cosmina Council, the Council of One, the One knows, conveying the information. You know what a conveyor belt is? A conveyor of information, conveyance, how that works with parsecs and sectors and numbers as energy related to the spin ratio harmonic of a vertical balloon that's no longer running a reversal current, feeding on living energies, right? And so this is you, as I mentioned to a lady yesterday, if you went back to what are known as, euphemistically, when you use the letters and numbers as the language that is distorted, because the plasma waves that produce the language is distorted. Okay, for example, what are known as Indian Wars. Now you had the French and Indian Wars, and then you had the Indian Wars that came across, known as the Columbus Doctrine, or also known as, a great book that I read, by the way, was called The Columbus Exchange, where from a geological point of view, perspective, from the time Columbus landed, which became known as the Columbus Exchange. Now we're into the exchange rate between electron donors and electron thieves. Electrical information, electrical data, electrical visual data, data that is holding us captive to a finite dead magnet, versus what we feel magnetically as powerful, perpetual energy in motion with oversoul arcing 3 spheres, which is the Trinity. Because binary coded wargame videos are not compatible with trinary, experiencing the lotus breath of eternal fire, which is eternal spirit of fire, which is eternal absolute love. It's on fire to give that energy away. And the torque speed differential between them and us, why they need massive healing, right? And so what I shared with her, because this one channel last night was talking about Portland and what's happening in Portland, right? The city's breaking down. It's breaking down. It's collapsing. That's because the circuits are not in balance. Broken circuits, broken arrows, right? Slow the speed down. Slow the magnet down, right? Feeding on the magnets, on the more powerful spirals, right? Shields up. Now it's feeding on more of what it is rather than what we are. And what does that do? Accelerates its implosion. Right? What I do to you, I do to me. What you do to me, you do to yourself. Right? We're all one. Right? So you see the differences between one and the other. That isn't experiencing the one, or isn't experiencing what love is. Right? So what I shared with that person who was talking about Portland, and you can think of the Oregon Trail, and you can think of Columbus, then you can map over time-space vectors, what are known as potentials, electrical potentials, of what we experience in the future based on what we're experiencing now and the rate of change that is taking place between density. Things are moving quite slowly down here, and they're moving at a higher rate of speed in higher places, spinning our way all the way up into the echo worlds. Spin back down the fire pole. Let's go see what's going on down there. Oh, whoa. Right? So, yeah. And so I mentioned to this identity, because I've never met this identity, eyes to eyes, soul to soul, spirit to spirit. When you realize when Columbus hit the dirt or the beach, right, just like on Omaha Beach, right, how this was all about mine. It's mine. What was it called? The doctrine of discovery through the Vatican. Therefore, if I conquer you, right, then I have the right to control your space, right? Space invaders, intruders. So they're intruders. It's like knocking on the door. This house is mine. You're mine. You're my property. Tied directly to the birth certificate, soul arcing bonds held as booty, right? To control what it is we experience through them. As a result of what their consciousness, their electrical density consciousness, is represented in the resistance that they have to experience more light, which is resisting being healed. As a result of experiencing being an alternate universe that it lives in, and it's mind. It's not experiencing what love is. So it goes alter, which is a dissociative identity disorder. So their mind is out of order. So that means that their organizing ability to self-organize the geometric and the mathematical spiritual flow of creation spheres is out of order, which is why their circuits are broken. Because they're not experiencing perfect balance between the poles. Right? They're firing correctly, which are your synapses, which are your neurons. So you realize when you're a little kid, the heart shield goes up right away. Protect those neurons, generate a gazillion neurons, right? Now you're into the telepathic multidimensional learning of who we're connected with as security teams to maintain what we're aware of, which is security, the security protocols, right? Why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing. So yeah, Mama, and so this is, so when you think about it, how it came across the land, Terra, like terra firma, you realize that lower density energy is now in a higher density place. Whoa, how'd they get here? Because now you become aware of what they are versus what we are, which is a higher state of consciousness. Enter technology and technology transfer and deals that are cut between units of consciousness that are now aware of technology they weren't aware of before. Wow, where'd you get that device? Right? And how technology becomes the wheeling and dealing. The wheel, like the heart wheel, the light wheel. Right? So now we're back to the inception of biotechnology, or the inception of technology, and the inception of the first fire, the first spiral. It's experiencing absolute love that's on fire. So this is what I've covered this before when I was a little kid. The spiritual and the soul development of higher consciousness is not matched up with technology. And so you see the result in the use of consciousness directed civilizations that are experiencing themselves through the use of technology. And so we have the result of that that's held in records. So the idea is to memory wipe so you don't remember those records and the use of technology that caused what? A collapse. Collapse after collapse after collapse after collapse after collapse after collapse after collapse of civilization after civilization after civilization after civilization. So it becomes simple for them. Just wipe the memory so they don't remember that, and we'll reprogram these units unless they have access to the permanent records, which is the EFFI field, which is the ultimate knower of all knowledge, which is spiritual knowledge, which is ancient ancestral spiritual knowing. So when you're with the one, you know what's going on as a result of why we're here. Right? And that means living, a living spirit with a soul is living up, the vertical up to the highest superconductor speed of honor, which is honoring the one, the first creative waveform expression. It is on fire to gift love away at the highest rate of speed, so that there is every unit of consciousness that is aware of itself is experiencing the first line of communication, the first ka mic, the first microphone, the first pH phone, the first phone number, dial 0, pH 0. We're not experiencing any electromagnetic radiation anymore. We're experiencing eternal fire. Oh, now we're going to experience the electromagnetic radiation waveform harmonics. Yeah, okay, so I get it. So we haven't experienced anything yet. Oh, but now we're experiencing the spectrum. The speed at which we're experiencing the spectrum, not experiencing the spectrum, experiencing the spectrum, not experiencing the spectrum. What do you want to experience next? I am what love is. It goes on forever. So that's a spin ratio harmonic. And you can measure the torque speed difference between something that's dead and something that's living. And that's a simple measurement by the difference in the spirals of consciousness. Right? I mean, you know, it's called resistance. Resistance to heal. So it continues to do what it continues to do because it doesn't have an off switch. That's the psycho AI mental pathway. Because the single point from which it all began is not artificial light. Because you can't clone the eternal spirit of fire that's on fire to absolutely give absolute love away for free at no charge. I know, Mama. So that's what I do. I expose it for what it is by virtue of what we experience that we learn from as a result of that. Right? So that's what I do. You know, I share what I'm experiencing as I'm going through each day. I call it a daily dose. Dosing. Doses, like dosing. Right? The dose response relationship. Right? Of what we experience over time-space vectors and the rate of change of what we're experiencing by those doses, which is called exposure. What we're exposed to by what we breathe, what we drink, what we absorb, and what we inject. That the operator is now experiencing what is represented by all those pathways of exposure by virtue of what it does versus what we do. So now we're talking about pathfinders, finding our way back to the original path, the path of one, which is the path of love, which is always in service mode. So we're in service mode forever on behalf of the one.